for joining us. Talking with T. Rice and telling the truth like we always do. So excited to have all of my good people back again. The amazing Alicia Peaton. I know everybody loves us so very much. And we got us a special guest with us tonight because we all know what it is.
Yes.
It's tax season, baby. And we got none other than Taisha Harris from Innovative Tax Services. And we're going to speak with Taisha in just a moment. So listen, we're back. It's been a minute. It's been a while. But guess what? It's been okay. It's all right. We had the holidays to get through. We had to get through the election inauguration, and we're going to get to that. But we're going to try to take it one step at a time and move in this 30 minutes. Because I'm already busting at the seams, just ready to just dive in. And I just want to have a talk. You know me, I just want to talk about it because it's worth talking about. And so listen, but the first thing I want to ask everybody is, how you doing? How you doing? So I wanted to lay a little small foundation about the show as we move forward in it, as we've done in the past. And so basically this whole conversation about talking with T. Rice is really sincerely about having a truthful conversation about telling how we feel. How are we really feeling? Are we well in all areas of our life, right? So are we well with family? Are we well with faith? Are we well with education? Are we well with business? And so the acronym that we have for WELL stands for Wholeheartedly Enjoying Living Life, right? And so we want to make sure that we're actually having a space to have truthful conversations about family, faith, education, and business. And are we actually living well when we're doing these things? I know that we're in this social media age where everything is so glammed out. Everybody is putting on their best face, but behind closed doors, we know folks, Alicia definitely knows folks really aren't doing too well, even though we try to act like we are so intact. And if you recall, when I first opened the show on our first night that we ever launched, I shared my truth. I shared where I wasn't doing so well in family, with business, with education, with everything. And that I was in a place of becoming well. And so the question that we'll ask every time we join on is, how are you? You can tell the truth. How are you? And for me, concerning my family, I'm doing well. I'm becoming well. I'm gonna say becoming well in that, because we still got some crooks that we've got to work out, with extended family, and still me. I think I still feel a little certain way. I think about it. My kids are grown. Sometimes as a mama, you want to grab them all back in and take care of everybody. But I learned from Alicia, that's not a healthy situation.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Look at, she's like, no, you better not. Doing that. Let them 20-something-year-old children with children move on out the door, right? With my faith, oh my goodness, I've got to say I'm doing well. I am wholeheartedly enjoying life concerning that. I really sincerely am. Relaunching ministry, all of that great stuff. So I've been excited about that. Education endeavors, I feel well about that, because it's not just about if you're in school, it's about a constant life of education, right? Because we're going to be educated from Taisha tonight around taxes, for folks with business, for individual taxes. What do we need to be doing? How do we need to be moving, and what we need to be looking for because of all these stimuluses and all this other stuff that's happened? What does that look like on the tax front? So we should always be educating ourselves. So I'm well with that. And business is doing well. Moving forward, I'm comfortable with where I'm going. So it doesn't mean that everything is peachy, because that's not what living well is about, but I'm enjoying it while I'm going through the ups and downs and the valleys. So that was a lot. Mm-hmm. How are you, Alicia? Are you well?
I am well. I was really excited that I finished that new training where I get to offer EMDR to my clients. I grew through that process, and it helped me understand, for those of us who are faith, to put our minds in the place the way the master designed it. And through this particular therapy, I found this to be amazingly helpful. And so I'm really excited. Like you said, the growing education is not always formal, but just being able to find something to feed our minds that helps to move us different in a different direction that we were the day before, and making those connections. One of the things that I am really feeling really good about, my mother is now living with us. We moved her up here from Florida, and one of the main reasons is my mother has some chronic health issues, and this is probably the most life I've seen in her in ages. And I had some anxiety about it, first, like just coming in and two women in the house, and everybody kind of has their own ways. And I'm my mother's only child, so just some anxiety about it. But God took a thing that I thought was going to be a challenging thing, and it has caused our relationship to grow in ways that I can't recall the last time that. And so that makes me feel well when I know the people that I love are doing well. And watching my husband grow, he's getting therapized. You don't realize he get therapized, but that's what I tell him. Anyway, he's learning how to talk better and communicate better, and being able to, and it just makes me feel good that when I'm healthy, people around me connected to me can be healthy. And then last but not least, God is blessing the business to grow exponentially to the point that my cup runneth over. And so that I have room to give and pour into other people in different ways. And it's not always a bottom line or a fiduciary measure, but whatever that I can do, and I can see those things coming in. And I had not even envisioned that it would grow this quickly, only being out the gate 6 months. And so I'm excited about all things that God is doing, and that I am continuing to be put in a position to be blessed, to be a blessing to others.
Absolutely. You are definitely doing
Mhm.
well. Glad to hear that. And we love cups that run over because we can
There you go.
grab some other people. Ty, how
Yes,
you feeling? Are you well today?
I am very well. Actually, it's my favorite time of year, so I'm fantastic.
Yay!
I love, besides my sister and I are partners, and her favorite thing to say is that I love taxes, and I do. I love doing taxes. I love educating my clients on their tax returns and on their tax situation. I like to tell them what to do during the year to make their tax time less stressful and to make it easier for me to help them, and especially small business tax clients and individual also, just to tell them little tidbits throughout the year that they don't know, because it's my job to get updated every year on the new tax laws so that I can tell them what's going on. So I love tax season, love tax time. I won't lie, April 15th, I am glad when it's over. And as far as personally, I'm doing really well. The family's well. We got through 2020. The children are prospering and growing, and the kids. I have the big adult kids too. They're doing well. So we're well over here, doing
That's what
really
I'm
well.
talking about. Everybody's wholeheartedly enjoying living life. And since we know that that's your favorite subject during this season, this tax season, what is it that we need to look out for right now as individuals and possibly businesses because of the stimulus? Can you dispel the myth, though, that everybody thinks that their refund's going to be deducted or taken away because of a stimulus? Because they
Yeah, and
received
that
a
was
stimulus.
actually going to be the first thing I talked about
Well, let
to
me let
people.
you do you, Tasha.
Now, there
I
you
just
go.
want to talk. Go ahead.
Because I get people walking in the door every day. I know they're going to tax us on the stimulus. You're not being taxed on the stimulus, and it's actually called a recovery rebate on your tax return. So the only reason that we're asking, did you receive the first stimulus or the second stimulus, is because if you didn't receive it, you're going to receive it in a refund on your tax return. So that's the only reason we ask about that. But everybody keeps saying, I knew they were going to tax us. You're not being taxed on that. And actually, if you had a child during 2020, because remember, the stimulus was based on your 2018, 2019 tax return. So any dependent that you had in 2020 wasn't included in that stimulus. So if you had a child in 2020, then you're going to get a refund back for the child that you had in 2020 on your tax refund.
Right.
So you're not getting taxed on that. One of the things that you should look out for, if you received unemployment compensation, make sure that you file that 1099-G with your tax return, because a lot of people I'm seeing received $17,000, $18,000 worth of unemployment compensation. Yeah. And if you don't report that on your tax return, the IRS will report it for you, and you may end up owing. Go ahead and report it. It's not making a huge difference on the tax return so far. That on your tax return, so go ahead and report it. It's not making a huge difference in your refund. You know, if you're used to getting a large refund, it's not making a huge difference, because remember, you still have those refundable credits. So those are the things that came out of 2020 that are mostly affecting the tax return season this year.
Absolutely. I definitely enjoyed mine, and I'm sorry, I'm in some brackets, other people might be above my brackets. It's okay. But yeah, I heard people say this a lot on Facebook and everything, even when they were coming, and I tried to send out information so that people can see in previous releases, because it's all about, when we talk about information, it's really about credible information, right? Not about your YouTube video you heard, or not about even talks like ours, so to speak. You've got a lot of people having these talks, but they're not coming from credible sources. And so everything we do, we definitely like to have professionals. I believe in data-driven stuff. So if it's not credible in data, and so I sent people links from IRS, early throughout the year when we were doing it. So what do we, so now people know your taxes from your stimulus from last year, and if we get the $1,400 for next year, they'll know, get the money if you need it for your household, and don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Taisha, what else do we need to know? What about these business folks? What about the folks with the 1099s, 1098s, or whatever, about the filing deadlines? What do they need to do if they didn't submit their stuff? And
okay, so if you had that's a new thing too also. So in previous years, when you have a business, a small business like mine or yours or Alicia's, then you'd had people do work for you, or you had to pay them. You sent them out what was called a 1099 miscellaneous, right? Anything $600 or higher, you send them out a 1099 miscellaneous. That form is no longer for those subcontractors as of 2020. Now you have what's called a 1099 NEC. That's non-employee compensation. So you send that form out now, starting this year. That deadline is February 20th. Well, you had to send it out to the subcontractor by January 31st.
Right.
Then you need to send your report, which is a 1096, along with a copy of the 1099 NECs by February 15th. It has to be postmarked by February 15th. And that's for anybody that you paid $600 or higher. So make sure, if you didn't do it last year, that anybody that you're hiring to do something like work in your office or do whatever, that you get upon hire a W-9 filled out for them. So at tax time, you're not running trying to get it, because I'm going to tell you, Toshiba, at tax time, nobody wants to give you their Social Security number or their EIN number to have taxable income put on there.
Absolutely.
So you get it at the beginning of the negotiation. Here's a W-9, fill this out for me. So you want to adhere to that deadline if you have 1099s. If you don't get it in by the deadline, the IRS can charge you up to $11 per 1099 in penalties and interest. So
one other thing I want you to talk about in reference to businesses, because a lot of time people don't understand the difference between who is really a contractor / consultant and who's an employee, because they really do need to understand what that is and what that looks like to make sure they even give them the W-4 form or the 1099.
Right. So W-4, if someone's filling out a W-4, that means they're your employee and you take out payroll taxes on them. So, and that means you do the payroll taxes monthly, quarterly, or annually on that employee. that is an actual employee with a W-4 form. If they're a subcontractor, then they fill out a W-9. That means they handle their own taxes, their own state, federal, Social Security. You don't do anything but pay them a flat rate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's important with a lot of people sometimes. I've even seen some businesses who are real businesses and people are coming in, but I'm noticing that people are coming and giving them 1099s at the end of the year. And I think people really need to understand when you're really doing office work and you have to follow their guidelines and their policies and their stuff, and it's not work that they just pay you to do because you follow your we're paying you to do the work, and you're giving employees technically 1099s at the end of the year. And I don't think a lot of people are understanding when they go into these deals that, hey, they got to pay all that money back at the end of the day.
Right. So what happens, and I find this a lot, is that they go in and they go, hey, they tell them they're a 1099 subcontractor, but then they treat them like an employee. So they feel like they're an employee until they get that 1099 at the end of the year, which means you have untaxed, you have money you've paid no taxes on. So now you have to pay taxes on that money. Now, what the plus side of that is, though you have to pay taxes on it, you now, under the IRS guidelines, are your own business. So you can write off certain things for that because you have that income, that 1099 income. So there's certain write-offs that you can do. And then when you're a business and you do that, though, you have to be careful with that, because you were speaking of myths before. A lot of myths that people go, oh, okay, especially like when you do the multi-level marketing things. Oh, but now you can write off this, you can write off that, and you can write off this. But you say, well, Bill said that because I sell 5 links, no, nothing against 5 links, but Bill said I sell 5 links, so I can write off my utilities and this and that and the other. And you can, but now you wrote all that, you sent your tax return in, and now you want to buy a car or you want to buy a house. But when you go to that Schedule C and you look at line 31, you're negative. You're negative $15,000. So that means you made no money, but you didn't have to pay any taxes, but now you can't get it because you have no money. So it's a fine line and you have to be very careful with it.
You are telling the truth. And I share that with people who I'm mentoring with business and with my business consulting to help them understand, listen, you want to show some level of profit at some point, or you can take the hit. I kind of took a hit this year with relaunching things and stuff like that, but I understand how it all works. And then I've got a great tax preparer like Taisha to make sure I keep my books and everything lined up as I mentor other people about resources and information. So I tell people, hey, I give you the resources and information. I don't actually do that for you. I do referrals out to like Taisha and Alicia based on where they are with family, faith, education, and business. So that has been some really, 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 really good talk.
Yes.
I'm going on live. We got a few people that's here. Everyone's saying hello, but I asked, did anyone have questions? So guys, if you have questions, put it in the chat. If you need, if you want to come in and ask your question, I can put you and Taisha in a separate, if you want to come into Zoom, I can put you into a separate
breakout
room so that you can ask her question privately. I get that. I understand that. I'm not gonna, make anyone say anything on screen that they don't want. So I put the link to log on in the chat. And then if you need, I can put you and Taisha in a separate Zoom. Taisha, I do need to get, and I think I have it. I've got my phone right here beside me.
Okay.
And your address. So you can tell them your address while I am pulling your address up. And I can put it on Facebook.
We're Innovative Tax and Accounting, and we're located at 817 New Bern Avenue, and that's at Suite 7, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27601.
Yes.
And our phone number is 919 521-4048.
Perfect. I'm going to put that in the chat because we all know. Carolyn, thank you so much for sharing. Carolyn said great information, Taisha, on the stimulus and the 1099. So that was helpful to some people. I'm going to make sure I have continue to put this up here about taxes. Does anybody else have any questions? Because, we're down to about 7 minutes because we're going to move on.
Okay.
This year, we're going to do 30 minutes and make you keep coming back for more.
There you go.
Right? You're going to come back for some more, but I'm going to get this in here. 817, that's New Bern Avenue, everybody.
Suite 7.
New Bern, okay, Avenue, Suite 7. And, of course, Raleigh. 27601.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and that phone number?
919. 521.
Okay.
4048.
4048. And this is Taisha. I'm going to tag you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Boom, innovative tax and accounting. Boy. There it is, everybody. It is in our chat. Oh, yeah. Carolyn has another great question. That is a really good question, Carolyn. How much can a student make and don't have to file taxes?
A student. Is that student a dependent or?
Would they be?
Okay. So not just a student, but anyone, if the student is above 18, anybody that you can, if you make less than $12,000, you don't have to file taxes. But a student, it just depends on if they're a dependent and their age. If they're, I think I have to look up, but I make sure it hasn't changed for 2020. But it's like $4,800 for a student that is a dependent.
Okay.
But I can look it up real quick.
Okay, so Carolyn says, yes, they are a dependent.
They are a dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're a dependent, hold on. I'm looking at right now, Caroline.
Okay. She's looking it up, Carolyn, and they're 18 years old. Now, I can share while Taisha's looking at that. When my children were still 18, 19, I still filed them, I think at 18, or I know it's around that time, and they still pay, and they still file their taxes. But I was really taking care of all their expenses, and we did that. No, they might have still been a minor, still in high school though, but working. So Taisha's going to get that for you, Carolyn. Does anybody else have a question? Tag your friends really quick because Taisha's going to be gone in 5 minutes. Taisha, Toshiba, and Alicia. Gone.
Okay, so Carolyn. So if
college
a student
is
she still there?
Yeah, she's a college student. And someone else says Joy is saying that they think they can make over 4,000. What are you saying, Taisha?
They can make, yes. So I just wanted to make sure it didn't change for 2020. So yes, they can make over $4,000 and file their own taxes and still be a dependent. But you have to make sure that whoever's doing their return checks the box that says, I can be claimed as a dependent on someone's return. Make sure they do that, and they still can file their return and get back the money that they paid in federal taxes or state taxes. Yes.
Perfect. All right. Anybody else has any questions? Boom. Yes.
And I was going to say, tell them, make sure they check that box because that's a problem if they don't check that box that says I can be filed that I can be claimed as a dependent.
Right. So Carolyn, I hope you heard that. She says, check the box, make sure it says she can be filed as a dependent. Thank you so very much for asking that question. We thank everybody else. Listen.
Yes.
Before we're going to leave it on this note, I know North Carolina schools are petitioning to be opened. So Taisha, Alicia, what are you thinking about that? What are you hearing, if anything, about parents' anxiety, students' anxiety around going back to school, or is it relieving stress if they go to school?
Well, what I'm hearing from my students is they're gonna be some chalk lines and some yellow tape if they don't go back to school. They're gonna kill somebody. These kids are pulling their hair out. Like at this
I
point, we
believe
have
that.
tipped the scale, and their mental health is now taking a hit. And I understand that it's not black and white. And there are a lot of dynamics, but I have seen more kids get more unstable. I mean, that their mood is shifting a lot. I've been dealing with more SI, suicidal kind of stuff, self-harm stuff, particularly from my
SI, suicidal ideation, right?
suicidal
Okay.
ideations from my teenage girls that I work, high school girls. They need the socialization. That is a need for them. The parents are getting frustrated, especially once they're saying, "Hey, I'm not a teacher." They're having a hard time navigating a 5-year-old sitting on Zoom sessions all day, or different kinds of things. And they are, especially when they are not educators, that they find it extremely difficult for them. And even some of my stay-at-home moms, like they are not doing self-care. They are just feeling overwhelmed and trapped. Especially this with there being imbalance where the husband has to go out of the home or gets to go out of the home. It gets to be a lot. And even my clients who, were on a good even keel, but this is just becoming now tipping the scales. And I think we've got to look at what we're getting in terms of diminishing returns at this point, that the kids are now hurting more, and than just not going. They're ready for this going back. I think next week some of them are supposed to be popping into school in these synchronous, asynchronous days. So
Yeah.
I am seeing an increase in mental health, even from stay-at-home moms that are just getting overwhelmed with having to navigate this, and they don't have any ability to do any balance. I feel that there has to be some middle ground, because I don't think that we have gained a whole lot by not having the kids at school. And I know this was a working experiment. I truly get that. But the ones that walk in the door and the increased numbers of them coming in um, has just been, I don't think that it has made that big of a dent. And especially now we got a new strain. So we don't have the data to show that we gained more than we lost at this point. The kids need to go back to school. They need to come out of their bedrooms, off their laptops. They're sleeping more. They're falling behind. Even the ones that didn't like school want to go back to school.
Right. I think that's great. We've got 20, 40 seconds. So I guess we'll really look at that as a moment of truth. We've got Joy saying that, Joy Goodson, she's saying that she thinks it's a bad idea if kids go to school unless they're vaccinated. I kind of agree with folks need to be vaccinated if they can be. My household has that complex situation. I know everybody's situation is different. And so I think that's the thing that we all have to be a little open-minded about. I mean, we all have our opinions of what we think the world should be doing, but in retrospect, everybody's household is different. Mental health plays a huge part in it. Joy said the same thing too. And so this is so much that we all have to deal with, and we're trying to get through this together. We're trying to maintain a healthy life together. And I think that we can do that. And so I wanted to talk about Bernie Sanders and those mittens, and how a parent, who was it, a teacher, wrote
Yeah.
an op-ed in reference to Bernie Sanders and talked about San Francisco teacher writes an op-ed, Bernie Sanders mittens, a lesson in white privilege. So listen, that's going to have to hold us until next week.
There
And
you
we'll
go.
talk about the privilege of what's going on in our climate and our country right now. We're also going to talk about Face the Race, which is another segment that we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit better because it might look like it almost might be an hour for us, but we're going to keep it at a hot topic of 30 minutes. I love talking with Alicia. Alicia and I can do this all night long.
All day.
And in that Face the Race thing, Alicia, we're going to talk about politics and people, who's running in North Carolina. We're going to centralize it in North Carolina and then talk about some national things. And then people, of what's going on in reference to people with face the race. And we're going to talk about this racism that's going on in our country. So
Oh yeah.
listen, stay tuned for next Tuesday, 9 p.m., where we're going to talk with T. Rice and we're going to tell the truth so that we can live well. Have a positive and productive day, everybody.
Absolutely.